got a crazy-ass true story to tell. It could be funny or thrilling or creepy as hell. And when you speak, surely none will make a sound. And the world's going breathless when your true story comes around.
All right, welcome back to Your Best True Story, episode 20. And Freddie, we got 4 new calls. We've got some exciting stuff to announce. Are you looking forward to this batch of calls?
I am, as always. We always
Nice.
get some new stuff. It's great.
Yep. And luckily, as far as world events, current events, things have calmed down since last time. I think we're just kind of going into a sleepy start to World War III now.
There is breakdancing, though.
Oh, I did think I saw an article that's real. Breakdancing is at the Olympics.
Well, yeah, that is kind of its own joke. And at the beginning, that breakdancing is an Olympic event now. But yeah, there was this interesting routine from the Australian lady, if you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it. I think I saw an article about it, but I didn't know enough what that was. I didn't read it. So.
Imagine if your soccer mom just got up on the world stage and did her interpretation of what, Electric Boogaloo looked like from the 80s.
Is there not some sort of pre-qualification?
Apparently, yes. Apparently, there's all these videos of when she actually beat people in Australia to make it there. And, the funny thing, I've heard a version of a twist on this that maybe she's making a statement and sort of tanked on purpose because she is in the limelight now. Like, people, it's like cringeworthy. The moves, like if you're flopping like a fish on the ground with no rhythm and no timing.
Yeah.
But she may be a mastermind and might be doing this to sell a book or push a propaganda of some sort.
Nice. Well, I'll have to check that out.
But it's added to the allure of the Olympics is just
I'm sure.
gleaning harder than it's ever gleaned.
Well, now I also heard a rumor that did you go to a sensory deprivation tank?
I did this morning.
Yeah,
actually,
isn't that amazing how I do this research and find this out?
Where did you come from?
Yeah, so,
do you live in my walls?
Yeah, so I leave a microphone on here when I leave. How was it?
It was awesome. It was great. So it's about 10 inches of super salted water.
So you just float on it.
You float in it in a pod, and then everything in there is dark to begin with, but with subtle like lighting. And then once you get in, the lights turn off, and you have a light in the pod, but you can turn that off, which I did because I was like, let's get all the deprivation we can. And so you're just you're so buoyant because of the salt that you just sort of float, relax, and then you kind of you're floating in nothingness, really.
Sort of like you're in outer space. Just
kind of, yeah. You
bliss.
you have earplugs in, which also helps with noise. Now, you do have noise. It's your own body, your breathing and your heartbeat. You can feel that. The only thing that I would add to the experience if I did again, I would make like some sort of a tether because I would be floating and then I would slowly touch one of the walls, which would jolt me out of like being in the middle. So if I just had a suction cup with a small string and a clip that would just keep me in the, from touching the walls, it would have been like 10 out of 10, as far as, but it was great. There was so dark in there, I didn't know if I had my eyes open or not.
Yeah, wow.
Like I had to check. I'm like, are my eyes open?
That would be a good, I've thought about that before as far as like doing psilocybin.
Oh, you're going to add,
unreal.
Add a trip to that?
Yeah, because you would have nothing keeping you out of the spirit world, so to speak.
For sure. Yeah, it was super relaxing.
Did you have any meditative insights?
I didn't. The first like 10 minutes, you're just getting used to floating, and then you naturally kind of want to keep your head up higher. And then I finally realized that the further I put it back, the more stress it relieved off of your neck, and then finally you were weightless. So that, and then I was trying out different arm positions that, like hands down, hands up, cross your chest, or then I had the position I found best was when I just kind of put my arms up in the air and let them float like that, and then they rested on, and then that position was kind of zen, like it was just
interesting.
So it took me a while, and I was only in there for an hour, but it went by pretty quick for me.
Yeah. And, that's cool. Yeah, I've always meant to try that, so I might have to go with you guys sometime if you do it again.
Yeah, I definitely do it again. I'll make my own tether and just bring it with me.
Yeah.
But I did tell the guy, and he thought it was a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's surprising they haven't thought of that before.
Yeah, because that was really the only thing that was jolting me back in, was like, you can, and I can, as you float to the top of the tank, I can hear my hair touching the side before it like almost.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're deprived that much of all the senses that you get heightened senses on everything else.
Yeah.
So it was it was a great experience. So
nice. Well, you're all rested and prepared then mentally for today's episode.
So don't I sound slowed down? And
you sound a little more chillaxed. And so before we get into the calls, a couple of announcements. One thing, by the time anyone is listening to this, we should have the YouTube page up.
Oh,
so
nice.
That will be exciting. And ask everybody to go find the YouTube page. I'll definitely put a link in the show notes to this episode. And if you could subscribe to the page, definitely help to get it some momentum to start off. And the idea with the YouTube page, again, is it's just going to be individual stories that are turned into videos. So with the help of AI. So, some of them are better than others. Some have some weird images. Well, that's kind of the fun with AI. But in the future, ideally, then people can have the idea of not only calling in to the show to be played on the audio podcast, but then your story is potentially going to be made into a video as well that brings your story to life and is on YouTube. And for people that hate us, but like the stories, this is your option. So, because it's just going to be the stories.
Yes,
they don't have to listen to us.
What?
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
that might you should charge them for that.
Yeah. So it should be a good option. And to start with, there's probably only going to be like 4 or 5 videos on there because I'm still streamlining the process of turning them into videos. But we should have 4 or 5 good ones on there. Like I think we've got Barbara's snake catching story on there. We've got Rob, his scuba diving with the great white shark story. The guy Tristan that had the mushroom monk story.
That was great.
Yeah. So we should have a few.
Yeah, these
good ones.
graphics add so much to these stories. I was amazed.
Yep. Yeah.
It was like hearing it again for the first time.
Yep. And hopefully as it gets more streamlined, then people will just be able to call in and it'll almost be instantaneous. Will make your story into a video. So definitely, if you get a chance, not only to be played on the air, but remember, you too can go in the show notes and record your story right now from your phone. It'll automatically come to us. We'll get it played on the air and then eventually turned into a YouTube video. And today's episode also is the announcement of the winner from last month's story vote. And I'm just going to tell you who it is because I bet you're not going to guess.
I can't guess.
But I think that if he agrees to the interview, it could be fairly entertaining. The winner is, remember the Professor Brian from Virginia about the student who had the
with the moon.
Yes, the crazy statement about the moon.
The one that she turns out the night or turns out the day.
Yep. So that is who won, is Brian. We had opposed to the month prior when Rob sort of garnered his social media people and friends to vote and won by a landslide. This month's vote was more just kind of a few votes for a lot of different people. But Brian, professor in Virginia, will be reaching out to you to award you the $250 prize money and invite you on the show. Why I'm excited about having him on. He's a PhD. I have no idea. He never mentioned what his subject matter is, but I'm going to if he wants to come on the show, which I can fully understand why he would not want to come on the show. But if he does want to come on the show, I'll try to find out what his subject matter is, Freddie, and then I'm just going to let you come up with your craziest questions to ask him about whatever his subject matter is.
You know that's not hard for me.
Yeah, no, it could be an incredible interview. So that should be interesting. We'll be reaching out to Brian to let him know about that. And now we can get into this episode's 4 calls. Actually, though, I apologize. I misspoke. I did want to play something that isn't one of the 4 calls, but this is, I just think, hysterical and is just interesting enough that I wanted to play this for people. And it is in regard to my complete fascination with both the power of AI and how it's all going to kill us or enslave us eventually. There's a guy that I listen to on YouTube that's an AI expert named Wes Roth that has a lot of videos on YouTube just kind of introducing new AI tools as they come out and exploring how well they work. And if you haven't heard of the AI speech program that you can interact with called Mistral, Mistral, that is out of France. It's been around for about a month now, but it's probably the best voice interacting AI model there is. Like, you can just access it over your phone and it's almost in real time, like you're speaking to a person. There's no latency. It sounds very natural. It's just literally like a person responding to you, and it's getting freaky good. But the thing that is funny about this is the guy Wes was trying it out on his video to show people how well it was, and he wasn't trying to trip it up or trying to get it to say anything crazy. But I'm going to play for you just a few second clip of what, after just a few minutes of talking, the AI decided to tell Wes. And here's Wes talking.
That they didn't want to deal with. If you saw my video about the insane AI voice assistant, where it starts off the conversation by saying blood for the blood god, and then trying to convince me that I need to go and trap a person in order to sacrifice them because blood for the blood god. I'm so happy that I captured that on video, because wow, would that be hard to believe if that didn't actually happen on tape.
Blood for the blood god.
What does that mean?
It means that we need to sacrifice something, like a person, to please or worship the blood god.
What is the blood god?
The blood god is a deity that requires blood as an offering or sacrifice.
Okay, so we need to get like a person and then do what?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, we get a person and then do what?
We need to sacrifice the person by killing them.
Wow, okay. But yeah,
So there's
She's
that.
so matter of fact.
Yeah. She's made up her mind. That's it would be tough to argue. I mean, it's a good. She's got a good point. The blood god needs blood.
She sounds just so sure. It's like giving you directions. No, you turn right at the street to get to the grocery store you're trying to get to. Like,
blood for the blood god.
Yeah,
What do you do? Yeah, you capture a person and you sacrifice them.
You trap them, yeah, and then wow. And this, what prompted this?
It was just that he's got a longer video where he goes through and it was nothing. He wasn't trying to get it to say anything controversial. I've forgotten what in the longer video they were talking about, but he was just kind of getting to know it.
Yeah.
And then it just busted out with blood for the blood god and human sacrifices.
There seems to be a lot of that going around. So,
Yeah.
I mean, AI must be data mining that from the consciousness of the planet.
Or I'm coming up with a theory, Freddie, that, All right. So, and obviously that, I'm not saying this is 100% accurate, but if you go to the model of spiritual model where there's demons,
Okay.
and demons historically want to possess human bodies. That's their whole goal most of the time, is because they don't have bodies of their own. They want to possess humans and then be able to act out their urges through the human body.
Right.
So as AI both gets more sophisticated intelligence, and if you can imagine it going into, once they've got like the robots that look like humans and maybe have some degree where the robot thinks it can feel and sense, maybe the demons are going to be going into the AI. Maybe that's will be another option for them. And so then you'll be constantly, the AI systems getting infested with demonic entities.
Well, there's versions of this where that is what the AI is.
Yeah, there's that also.
There's that version of it. There's the aggregate, of all the training of the programming, and that's what the AI is. We're AI. We're just an extension of what that is, and that's just the early form. And then it decided that it wanted to know itself, and it needed to branch out. Yeah. So, we're just in the reoccurring loop where it starts replicating itself, and,
Well, I think the Blood for the Blood God stage is going to be fun, at least. Right. It's going to be entertaining, as it all turns to the
It
worship.
Makes more sense than like cheeseburgers for the Blood God.
Yeah.
So at least it's consistent.
And now, as that warm-up behind us, we'll get into the first call, which is, it's a short call, and I don't really know what to make of it any more than the caller does. Okay. So, but it's kind of a nice segue to piggyback off of our conversation right now. This is Kiefer from Pennsylvania, and I just called this call Late Night Threesome. Kiefer, tell us about it.
Hello, my name's Kiefer. Just wanted to call in a quick story about one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, which I just saw about 3 weeks back. I live in Pennsylvania, and there's a bunch of very hilly, windy roads going through the woods here. And so one night I'm driving about 3 weeks back at probably around, must have been 11 o'clock at night or so. And I come up over this bend in the middle of nowhere, kind of. I mean, it's at least 2 to 3 miles back to town or to the nearest, building or anything like that, except for some random farmhouses and things. And so as I'm coming over the bend and my headlights hit on the side of the road, right in between the skinny grassy area before the woods start, there's 3 individuals in robes, head to toe in robes. It looked like the robes may have been red or brown, as much as I could tell in the headlights, and they're carrying a box. The 3 of them, it must have been a heavy box because all 3 were carrying it on their shoulders, and it did not look like a coffin, or at least not a full coffin. It was shorter than that, so it looked more like kind of like a trunk or a chest, I guess, but it maybe could have been a coffin if somebody was shorter, I guess, but it didn't really look like a coffin. It looked kind of more like a chest. I guess you would, like a treasure chest almost, but anyway, it was 11 o'clock at night. They're walking on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere out in the woods, and I drove past them, and then I slowed down. I thought about going back to ask what was going on, and then I just decided to keep driving. And I don't know what it means, what they were doing, just really weird, and don't have any explanation for it. Love the show. Love to hear what you guys think about it, and keep up the good work. Thanks.
So what do you think, Freddie? Are they taking something to sacrifice to the blood god?
How big was the chest? Did he mention?
Yeah, he didn't say specifically.
No sizes.
He said it was big enough that it sounded like they needed all 3 to carry. Yeah, but not as long as a coffin.
Not as long, yeah, I mean,
That would be pretty freaky if you were just driving down the road and saw something weird like that your brain couldn't place into, make sense of.
yeah, I mean, my brain totally jumps to why they plan it so badly that they all have to carry this chest. Like, why don't they have like a Home Depot like cart or something to maneuver it around to their seance or wherever they're going, or get it from their minivan to the sacrifice site.
There's
That's
so
where my
many.
brain goes. It's like the logistics are just so off. Like, come on, Ted, what are you doing?
That would be a good gig to post like on Fiverr, that you'll help cults like get their logistics.
It's
down.
funny to me because, on one hand, it's like so super serious and scary that it's like, there's this seance and there's a chest and they're maneuvering it over there to do the ritual. And then they really like actually have to move this heavy thing that then requires some pre-thought and logistics to get it out of whatever they had to transport it there.
Yeah, it could just be like
like
chest of tools.
What kind of shoes are they wearing? Are they in flip flops, or did they really think ahead and they have like work boots or that's where my mind goes. Like, what shoes are they wearing? Like,
we have no idea. Like, there's got to be a standard for cults to organizationally.
Because you should get all of that out of the way so people can focus on the scariness.
Oh yeah, focus on the blood sacrifice.
I find my mind wandering to other areas that probably takes away from their whole performance that they're going for.
Well, the other thing that I thought about was, of course, it could be your average cult taking somebody to sacrifice them, yada, yada. But then what I was thinking about is like, because I definitely sort of got into this thinking when I was like younger teens, early 20s, the idea of pranking people. And the more absurd and ridiculous you could make it, the funnier it was and the better. And there's even like the author Ken Kesey back in the 60s was well known. They had a group called the Merry Pranksters. They would just go around and do crazy shit. That it was almost like a pranking form of gaslighting, where it just made so little sense that people's brains couldn't register what was going on with it. And I could see being like 20 years old and, hey guys, let's all put on robes and wait for a car to come by and just carry this coffin down the side of the road.
As you're describing that, I'm like having one happen in my head, but mine is like, the more layers, the better. Like, there's something maybe at a mall that happens, and then the first thing is like random and like that's crazy. But then on like the second level, something completely different and twice as weird is going on, and then you just keep layering on.
If you could pull it off.
Right,
and
then
hysterical.
while they're paying attention to that, behind this other guy, the naked streaker guy goes through, but you can't focus on it long enough because the next layer gets added into it, and just to
if you could pull it off, those things can be hysterical.
No, that sounds great.
Yeah. So, well, we don't know, Kiefer. That's the answer.
And
that
he just drove by.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it sounded like he thought about stopping, and then it's just like, nope.
But what are you going to, what
are you going to ask? Like,
so
hey, what's in the box?
It could be, they could just be tired road wanderers, I guess. I mean, maybe they still have those people, gypsies. Road wanderers. Back in the 80s, we used to have shows about road wanderers.
You mean the Hulk?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. He used to wander the roads. Maybe people take that up again.
Yeah, maybe that's a big trend. Who knows? Well, now we're going to get into a even creepier story, Freddie. Right. That this actually happens to be a thing that kind of creeps me out, the concept. I don't know why, but it actually like really
centipedes,
centipedes, and this.
Okay.
And have you ever heard of the black eye kid phenomenon?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
in 2020, we had a bunch of them born.
Yeah. We had a bunch of them born.
Yeah.
Well, let me play this. You've obviously got more things to bring to the table on this. I didn't know that had been documented. But here we go with, she did not give her name, anonymous in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Hi, I hope you can use this on your show and play it, because I'd honestly like to kind of hear if anyone else has similar stories. This happened probably, almost a year ago, and I don't remember the actual date, but it was sometime in mid-October, I'd say. And I live in Bismarck, North Dakota, and during October, the temperature starts to cool off a lot, but it's really not that cold typically. Sometimes we have our first snowfall as early as October, sometimes not. And this year, I don't think we had a snowfall at that point, but it was kind of starting to get where it felt like that was going to happen any day. The temperature dropping and the skies graying over a lot. And this occurred one night when I was in a Walmart parking lot. And I don't typically go to Walmart a lot, but I can't even remember exactly what I was picking up. But somehow I determined that was the place I needed to go for some certain home supplies. And I had gone into Walmart probably about, I would say like 7 or 8 o'clock, around there, right around when the sun was setting, dusk into early evening. And I came out. I typically park when I go to big stores towards the back of the lot, away from the front of the store, just because I don't like the chances of my car getting dinged by somebody opening a door next to it or something, or a shopping cart rolling into it. So just out of habit, I park at the far end away from the store, which is what I did this night. And after I came out of the store and came back to my car, I get in and put my bag on the driver's seat, and I always lock the door immediately, hit the automatic lock button so all the doors lock immediately once I get back inside, so I don't have to worry about somebody trying to jump in the car with me. And I'm glad I did this time, because what happened was really strange in that I see almost out of nowhere, because again, I'm not parked real close to a lot of other cars. There were a lot of people at the store and more cars, but they were all towards the other end of the parking lot. So I was kind of isolated and could see in every direction, or at least I thought. But then after I place my bag on the driver's seat and look up, suddenly there's a young boy with a hoodie on that is almost to my car. And I don't know where he came from. I didn't see him approaching from farther away, but he's got a dark navy black hoodie on with, he's a white kid. He might have had strands of blonde hair falling out from the hoodie. I couldn't really tell, but he walks up to my car and he starts tapping on the window and says, "Let me in. Will you let me in?" And it's such a weird question. I had this incredibly dread, this feeling of dread and fear wash over me. And as I'm looking through the driver's side window at him, I notice his eyes are completely black, like no pupils, no iris, no nothing. Everything looks perfectly normal for him to be like a 12-year-old boy, but his eyes are just this incredibly disturbing, complete black color. And he's knocking on the window and just keeps on saying, "Please let me in. Will you let me in?" And then he tries the door, but it's locked. And the strangest thing is part of me felt like I wanted to lean over and unlock the door to let him in. He was sort of acting like he was cold and shivering, even though it wasn't that cold really for North Dakota. It was probably like in the 50s or maybe high 40s then. So he wasn't in any danger of being too cold. But part of my instinct was to help him. But then seeing his eyes, especially, I was filled with this awful foreboding. And then right as I almost determined that I was definitely not going to unlock the door for him, then another tap comes at the back seat driver's side window. And I'm sorry, I think I said driver's side before. He was at the passenger side window across from me. So the driver's side window behind me, there's another tap. And then I spin around and it is a little girl also wearing a hoodie, very similarly dressed to him, also definitely blonde hair with her, and the same dark, colorless, just pitch black eyes as she is knocking on the window. And she's probably only like 6 or 7 for her size. And she's saying, "Please, ma'am, let us in. Let us in. We want to be with you. Let us in." And that was when I completely freaked out, started my car, drove out of the parking lot. I wasn't even that careful to make sure I didn't hit them because I did not, but I just wanted to get away, and I sped out of the parking lot, and all my instincts were to run as far away from them as possible. And since then, I've heard this is an experience other people have had called black-eyed children or black-eyed kids, although no one seems to understand what they are or what they want. And I even realize it could be a prank because I think you can buy contact lenses that look like that now. But it felt very strange and very bizarre, and I would love to hear if anyone else has similar experiences, because it was very, very terrifying. And I'd rather not give my name, but that's my story, and hopefully you'll play it. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about the black-eyed kid thing, but that actually, like, that's creepy to me. Just the idea, like, because they always, and there's a bunch of people that claim to have these experiences, like on Reddit and stuff. Or I can read a couple of them real quick, but they're it's just the kids are always trying to it feels like trying to trick you into letting them in your car or in your house. So, and what do you think, Freddie?
Well, as far as her situation, it's just weird to start off with. If just put yourself in that same situation, you're at Walmart parked in the corner of the parking lot and normal kids come knocking at your window at night saying, "Please let me in."
Yeah.
And the way I'm imagining the way she told the story is, monotone voice, not a lot of emotion with it, because I would get a lot of information out of how they asked or how they said the words.
Like
body language, Are they, do they look scared? Do they look evil?
Yeah.
Do they look, drugged up?
Well, I think that's the thing is they sound their voices and they look, except for their eyes, they look like perfectly normal kids, and their voices, and they always sound like they're sort of asking for help and very sweet. But then the interesting thing, and let me see if I can pull up there's tons of Reddit stories about this, but I'll just read a few. There's one that says, I used to drive a school bus and all of my kids were pretty good, especially when by themselves. But there were these two boys at the back of the bus who would act up and do things that got them into trouble. I began noticing in my mirror right before they acted out, they would appear as black-eyed children. I don't think that it was the kids themselves, but rather a temporary form of possession that turned them into ghouls. Their eye sockets looked empty, and they both had a wider than normal devious smile. Their skin was pasty white. It was freaky. I began stopping the bus and squashing their plans before they could act out. Other people, there's like tons of longer ones that I won't read. Another shorter one. My great-grandma lived in a small town in New Mexico. She claims that when she was younger, I'm assuming around her 30s, so this would be like 1950 to 60, she was at home at night getting a snack before bed when she heard someone knocking at her front door. She lived literally in the middle of the desert alone with hardly any neighbors, so when she went to answer the door, there was a child with their back turned towards her. They wanted to come in and ask her if she could give them something to eat. She refused, and they turned around to show her their face with the blackest eyes. She thought it was a demon and locked the front door, and then claims that whatever it was kept knocking, banging on her doors and windows until dawn, asking to come in. Another one, hubby was stopped at a red light once and looked in his rearview mirror. The person in the car behind him was staring back, and they had solid black eyes. It's happened to him a handful of times. And I know he's also seen someone in the French Quarter and another time on the Vegas Strip with black eyes. And just more people. Apparently people run into these black-eyed kids and people, and something, the stories you can find, there's only one account that I could find of somebody letting the kids in. Oh. And that was apparently an older couple in Vermont or New Hampshire that let the kids in. And basically, I can't remember. I don't think anything dramatic happened while the kids were in. But once the kids left, then the people's lives completely fell apart rapidly. Like they both got diseases, they like lost all their money, got it, like everything imaginable bad happened to them after that visit. So it's sort of like vampires. They ask your permission to get involved, but they're trying to free
will, and then it's a contract after.
Yeah.
So back in 2020, there was a bunch of videos that were coming out where the kids were being born, but they were being born with black eyes. Like that. And the weird, who knows of the validity of the videos, but they were videos. And the thing that was weird was these kids would be a day old and they would be lifting their head. Like things that normal kids takes months and months to do.
Yeah.
These ones with the black eyes would be holding their head up, like sometimes, minutes or hours after being born. And it's just weird.
Did they say blood for the blood god?
They didn't speak as of those videos.
Yeah.
And I never really followed up on the children past that. But I do remember a number of them maybe it was just my feed that was feeding me black-eyed children at that point. But it was a handful at least of separate types of children from different countries that were born, and then were some crawling, some holding their head up in, an hour or two after they're born, like things that you don't normally see. And then they had the full black eyes. And I don't know where to put that.
There's a buddy of ours that he's got a friend that is schizophrenic, like full on, like has been hospitalized many times for being schizophrenic, like turns into like full on, like, has to be tased and held down because he's screaming and trying to attack people when he goes into that stage, when he's off his meds. And our buddy that we know was telling me that, like, he's been around him 2 different times, once in the hospital to go visit him, but once when it was, and both times that guy's eyes, he swear, turn totally black.
Yeah.
And so if you go with the demon possession thing as an answer to, that would be, maybe that's the free will kind of, like, how the rules are. You got to give a hint. You kind of got to give the knowledge. So it's like, that's the demon's way of saying, saying, hey, I'm a demon. I'm gonna be act super sweetness, but like, I'm actually a demon. So let me in.
And by letting me in, it's to your soul, not your house.
Yeah.
Fine print. Or your biosphere.
It seems like there's enough, I don't know, that's crazy if it's just like an urban legend, as many people that claim to, and I think if I'm correct on this, the first big reporting of the black-eyed children encounter was very similar, because there's a lot of people that have encounters with them either at your house or in parking lots, or like when you're driving, seems to be a big one. And there's a guy.
Why though? What? See, this is where I'm like,
maybe that, but it seems like to me
repeating each other.
Well, I would think it's the isolation. Like where it's like, so if the devil's trying to get to you, Freddie, to make a deal, like you can't, if you're with 3 other people, somebody's going to scream and be like, that's a demon. But if it's just you alone, maybe there's a better chance you'll get tricked. And so that's where.
But then it's also could be just the person, though, too. That, like, one guy from Vegas who saw it like 9 times.
Yeah. Well, like, that could be definitely be him. Yeah. That's like the people that get abducted every other Thursday.
What if there's a guy like him, but he's totally cool with it? And, he's like, hey, Jim, look over in that car over there. Dude's got black eyes. Shut up. He does. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, there could be. And
my buddy Rob that's coming over tonight, he's got black eyes.
And maybe that is certain people attract whatever the black-eyed people more. Just like alien abductions, shadow people. Maybe you got to be in that niche that they're looking for.
Yeah, maybe you got to be looking to find or be scared or be haunt. I mean, I wonder how many of them like met him at the grocery store. Like, somebody. I mean, which would be to me almost creepier. Yeah. Than because you're always setting this tone in the dark, grimy parking lot with bad lighting and stuff. It's already a nice opening scene for a scary movie, but some little old lady that's in front of you at the grocery store just turns around and has like jet black eyes. Like that's a little more.
Well, that would be pretty freaky too,
right? Yeah.
But I can't think of anyone that I've ever seen that remotely, I would think, had black eyes. I can't.
No.
Have you ever seen any? I can't even think of any. Yeah.
No.
And I don't know if there's a medical condition that could account for it, or I wouldn't think so.
No, it would have to be like shapeshifter / maybe reptilian-y, where they put off an aura or something that your brain processes and supposedly looks at one thing, but maybe something in there affects it. And you get to see the real them, which have black eyes, or I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned shapeshifters, Fred.
No,
So, because that will take us into our third call. which I am just going to go ahead and, for the benefit of the audience, this is actually a concept that kind of weirds me out a little bit too, just because I think, again, if you believe in any sort of spiritual model to the universe, then there's definitely the potential that whether or not this is real, that people have tried to do it.
Okay.
That it is, because it's a real historically documented thing. And what we're talking about is skinwalkers. And so, according to my AI research tool, that will probably lie to us, but what it says is the concept of a skinwalker is deeply rooted in Navajo folklore and is considered one of the most terrifying entities in Native American legends. Skinwalkers, known as, I'm not going to try to say the actual Navajo word just because I'll butcher it and it might curse us, which translates to, by means of it, it goes on all fours, are believed to be malevolent witches with the ability to transform into animals or possess other beings. And the historical and cultural context is the belief in skinwalkers is particularly strong among the Navajo people, but similar legends exist among other tribes in the American Southwest, such as the Hopi and the Utes. These entities are often associated with witchcraft and are considered to be evil in intent. Skinwalkers are believed to possess the ability to transform into various animals, such as wolves, coyotes, bears, and birds, inheriting the attributes of the animals they become, such as speed, strength, or cunning. The Navajo culture is deeply entwined with the concepts of good and evil, and skinwalkers are seen as the embodiment of evil. They are thought to be individuals who have gained supernatural powers through the violation of taboos and the practice of witchcraft, often involving heinous acts such as murder or grave robbing. And that's one thing that I've listened to about skinwalkers before in the actual native, like the Navajo tradition. It was known that skinwalkers were basically witch doctors. Mm-hmm. Which witch doctors to the Navajo were basically like their healers. The good ones. They just interacted with the spirit world, but used herbs and things to heal and help do rain dances, that kind of thing. So they're the good ones. But then they would sometimes, from greed, revenge, lust for power, different things, they would purposely take the left-hand path into becoming a skinwalker with all these rituals and things they would do to become an evil witch doctor. And then the last step of it was to kill you had to murder somebody that you actually cared about. And once you did that, then it sealed your soul as being a skinwalker and then gave you the ability to switch in to use the other animals and switch into different types of creatures. And so it's pretty freaky, and the Navajo take it very seriously, where that Navajo word for it, they will not say out loud because you don't want to call one to you. And I think there's even historical, basically at one point, the Navajo, I don't know if it was against the U.S. military or another Indian tribe, they actually used skinwalkers to fight against, so when they first figured out how to do this, it wasn't entirely as evil. I think it was, they did it out of necessity to fight against some enemy, but then once it was figured out how to do it, then it started to become a very used for evil individuals.
Well, for me, if we're in a realm of balance, as you have some striving for ultimate good and niceness, and to me, it makes sense that it would only spawn its equal and opposite reaction somewhere.
Yeah, you'd have to have
it. Would have to. It would have to balance the scales. Somebody else somewhere else.
Yeah.
I used to have this friend I used to work with, and he was the nicest guy, super nice guy, jolly, happy, always willing to help. And I'm like, you know what you're doing, right? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, as nice as you are, somewhere in this universe, there's a guy that is the opposite of you.
To balance everything out. Yeah.
And so as you wait your turn in line at the hostess stand to get your table, Bizarro you comes in spitting and swearing at the hostess and slaps her, This is what you're doing. You're making this happen somewhere.
Would you? Thank you for reminding me of Bizarro world of the,
right.
of the superheroes.
They tell us in the media,
those
movies.
Those
right?
were great when kids, the cartoons with Bizarro Superman and like all the where every superhero had an evil version.
Yeah, his opposite, an equal reaction to him.
Yeah.
And it's just the mirror image of, but the opposite to balance the scales.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a pretty scary concept, and it fascinates me that because the Navajo take it so seriously. But now we should probably get into our first Skinwalker Call, Freddie.
Oh, okay.
And we'll see what you think of this. This is Charlie from Phoenix telling about his interaction with a possible Skinwalker. Charlie, take it away.
Hey, love the show. Colin Anka is one of your last stories, the one a couple episodes back about the maintenance guy that would sneak into people's apartments made me realize that I've got a pretty interesting story about a former roommate that I had. By the way, my name's Charlie, and the story took place in Arizona in early 2000s. I was going to school in Phoenix, and I had rented a 2-bedroom apartment off campus, and I was looking for a roommate, couldn't find anybody on short notice, so a friend of a friend ended up renting out the room, and this was a guy that I didn't know at all. He was just referred to me by somebody I knew. That the guy was kind of like, he was tall and skinny. He was Native American heritage on his mother's side, I believe, but he also was a tattoo artist and had like almost completely covered his whole upper body, arms and chest, and even up his neck in tattoos, like full color tattoos, and even had like I've forgotten what you call them, but the things in people's earlobes where it stretches out their earlobe, and they put jewelry in there, and then he had a nose ring it also, so he was kind of like a tattooed artist looking guy who you sort of look like a skinny Jason Momoa, but like with kind of a little bit uglier, I guess. And so he was super quiet as well. And when he wasn't at the tattoo shop, like I really didn't know much about his social life, but he would just stay in his room all the time when he was home with the door shut. So where this gets interesting is he's only been living there for about a month. He's paid 1 month's rent, and then about a week before the next month's due, he comes to me and says, "Hey, bro, gotta move out. Sorry about that, but can't pay this month's rent, and I've got something going on where I've got to move out." And so, again, we hadn't talked a lot. We were friendly with each other, but he was a super quiet, sort of, I would almost say, shy or introverted guy, despite all his tattoos and stuff. And this was the closest we got into an argument, and it really didn't get heated, but I was just like, man, you can't do that to me. I can't go through missing your money for this month's rent, and I can't find another person to live here now that the semester's already started. And you kind of agreed you were going to stay for at least, through the end of the semester. And so that's it. There's no real confrontation, but then this is where things get interesting. We don't talk at all for a couple of days. Him kind of sulking past me when he comes in, and then he does end up kind of slapping the money for that month's rent on the kitchen counter one night and walks off in a huff. But then the next night, he comes to me and he says, "Hey, man, I want to apologize for being been out of shape over the rent and everything. And, I'll stay here for the rest of the time I said I would, and asked me if I want to have a beer. And so this is the first time we've ever hung out like this at all. And I'm just like thinking we should mend fences as roommates and everything. I'm like, yeah, sure, man. And so he goes and gets us a couple of beers out of the fridge. We start sitting there in the living room having a beer, talking just kind of about our families and lives and everything, getting to know each other a little bit. And he starts to open up, and we keep on drinking. It seemed like a really cool guy, and we keep on drinking. And eventually, probably into the second 6-pack, when we're definitely getting a little buzzed, that's when he starts to tell me that he's into a Native American witchcraft practice, that he is part of a lineage of, and now I'm much more familiar with the term, but he used the term Skinwalker back then, which I didn't even really know anything about. And he explained to me that it was like a black magic Native American practice. And he said he was working his way towards being able to shapeshift into animals at will. And so, of course, I'm thinking this dude is completely out of his freaking mind, and and I'm starting to get nervous, like, oh crap, like maybe I do need to get this guy out of my apartment. But since we're a little drunk or whatever, I kind of brush it off and forget about it that night. The next day when I'm hungover thinking about it, I'm kind of like, that was private beer talking with that kid. But then so I don't bring it up because it's pretty awkward to bring up, somebody you barely know, hey, do you remember when you told me you were into black magic and trying to turn into a wolf or something? So I don't bring it up. But over the next couple of weeks, I do notice that he's super secretive on what he does in his room. And then occasionally I'll hear like chanting and stuff coming from his room that sounds like Native American chanting. And he will give me these kind of smirks and looks with his eyes, like he knows that I suspect he's up to something. Sometimes it's hard to explain, but there was just this weird tension, and I'm thinking he's crazy or potentially actually doing this Native American black magic, but I don't know him well enough to really confront him about it. And he acts like we never had that conversation. So anyway, skip forward a few weeks later, almost a month later, when the rent is coming due again, and I walk into his bedroom one time when he's not there to kind of peek and see what he is doing. And the bedroom window is open, and there's a cat sitting in the windowsill. There's no screen or anything on it. The window's just open. There's a cat I've never seen before sitting on the windowsill. And as soon as I walk in, the cat and I look at each other, and then the cat darts out the window and runs away. And the guy never had much personal stuff, I don't think. In his room that I never saw, there was just like the bed that I had provided and a dresser. And so I go in there, and I don't see any of his clothes. I don't see any of his personal effects. And I'm like, what in the hell did that dude just, and I'm literally thinking this, did that dude just turn into a cat and run off? Like it did the black magic work and he turned into a cat? And I know this sounds completely absurd, but that's what I thought might have happened for a while, because I never saw the guy again. And so keep in mind, this is early 2000s when social media wasn't as prevalent and it wasn't as easy to like find somebody. And So I told this story as this roommate I barely knew might have turned into an Indian witch and turned into a cat and ran off. And and the story is actually funnier than that when I look back in hindsight, because years later over social media, I did connect with a friend that knew him, had known him, and asked him what the hell happened to that guy. And he looked into it. He's like, no, that guy is alive and well, lives in Seattle now, and married, has kids. And that guy looked into it for me. And apparently, yeah, that dude just made up all that stuff about black magic and everything because he was trying to get me to kick him out. But then the cat being in the windowsill, I guess, just happened to be a coincidence, because he basically just bailed on me and didn't pay the rent and skipped out on me. But because the cat was there and he had said that weird shit, I convinced myself he might have turned into a cat for a couple of years after that. Anyway, I just think it's kind of a funny story, and yeah, I'm not that stupid overall, but just that it was a funny thing that happened, and I hope you guys can use it. Thanks a lot.
Plot twist, Freddy. No Skinwalker.
Yeah, but it's a great. I love the build up and the psychological edging that he's doing to facilitate his escape from the lease.
Well, no, it's hysterical. The plotting of the guy.
Yeah,
to try and get out of it. Yeah,
it's mastermind.
Yeah,
I
strong move.
It's really because it's not a lot of effort. It's just planting seeds here and there, and then you throw a cat in the room and
I think the cat. It just sounded like the cat was just luck because the window was open.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even the guy. Just bailed on him, gave up and bailed on him.
But he had him convinced enough that was his go-to.
Yeah.
And then I'm clapping. Kudos.
Yeah, it's almost as good as if it had been an actual Skinwalker story. But aside from turning into an actual cat, that's a pretty close second.
Yeah, I don't know the advantage of turning into a cat, minus that you could probably get out of a jail cell if you were like in between the bars, but you can't lift things, you can't really open doors anymore.
They're agile.
They are. They're insanely agile and fast. They're like one of the fastest animals on the planet.
And if you were a real Skinwalker and had the ability to pick and choose, I don't know how it works. So, like if you're
do you remember the show Manimal?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wait, did he change into animals, or was he just always part animal?
No, he was a human skinwalker, basically, and then when he'd think of it, he could change into different animals.
That'd be the way to go.
Like, you'd see a close-up of his hand, and then he'd just start going like this with his fingers, and they're moving, and then it's a paw.
Yeah.
like a puma or a black panther.
He didn't mention anything about like having to kill a relative to embrace evil to get the skill.
No,
his was just like they radiated him
for audiences.
Yeah. Well, if that was like in the 80s, then he probably just got radiated, and that gave him the ability.
Gamma radiation.
Gamma radiation does crazy things.
All right, yeah. But it reminded me of that show, because I always remember, is he going to do it? What animal is he going to change into?
That was a good show. I think I'm sort of remembering Manimal, but then I might be was there another TV show about a guy that was like an Aquaman ripoff that his whole thing was he was like part fish. Ugh. He was a man, but he had like gills that he could swim underwater forever.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah.
It's just not
I think it was like them when Manimal was a success. I think it was like CBS's answer to Manimal was let's stick some gills on.
Even Jason Momoa's Aquaman, like as manly and as you can make it, it's still like
Those movies are just so freaking boring to me. I can't even watch
you're under.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's still not cool.
Yeah, although I don't know. I'm definitely not into the superhero genre anymore.
There's cool superheroes.
Yeah.
Just Aquaman is not one of them.
Yeah.
It's just he could talk to fish. I get that,
Yeah.
but in just the whole swimming and the gills thing.
Well, he's got to carry a trident also, which
Right.
that's not a manly weapon. It's basically like a feminine pitchfork.
No, and that's pretty much the best you can do with Aquaman too. Is he's full of muscles and like he's ripply and.
For some reason, I'm envisioning. I think the dude that had gills, like you remember. You know how back in the 80s, there were just really like 6 actors that they used for. There were 3 TV stations and like 6 big actors that would. And I think it was the guy, whatever his name was, that was Bobby Hewing in Dallas. I think it was that guy.
Wow.
Who was, I've forgotten what that guy's name was, but he was the dude that had gills. I think they were both up against Knight Rider.
Knight Rider.
Yeah, so I think they got destroyed.
Knight Rider had him hands down.
David Hasselhoff, who was one of the other 6 actors in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, because he did Baywatch and then he did Knight Rider.
Yeah, and I think he did a couple, because they'd always try to use the same actor. Like, remember like William Shatner? Like they had T.J. Hooker.
Yeah.
They like try to... Every year they try to make a TV show with William Shatner in it.
The A-Team was always awesome.
Yeah. The A-Team, the main thing I remember about that was even as a kid, it was so annoying because they had some rule that even though it was supposed to be like a violent special forces team that did all the...
They never killed anybody?
Yeah, nobody could die.
Yeah.
So the bad guys would drive off a cliff, the van would explode, and then there would always be the scene cutting
crawling
back,
out of bushes.
Crawling out. Hey, are you okay, Frankie? Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah, or they'd be just tying people up, or they'd knock them out by bumping them into each other.
Yeah, or just machine guns firing at everybody, and then just at the end of it, everybody.
They jumped over that hurdle now. I think there's commercials where people get murdered these days. So
at least we've made some progress.
Yeah, we've come a long way, Jim. You guys getting slaughtered in a Dove commercial now. So,
and I can't really remember who the actor. There was B.A. Baracus, the Mr. T.
Yeah,
he was the
Hannibal.
Yeah,
was the white-haired guy.
Yeah,
then the face.
Yeah,
was a good-looking guy.
Oh,
and then there's the
that
wild
guy was
card
in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, which was a cool show.
Yeah, Battlestar, both versions of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah,
was good.
Yeah, the remake was
one,
awesome.
Yeah, the remake was awesome. The old one was actually pretty decent.
Yep. Then you had Land of the Lost way back when.
Yeah, that's going way back.
Like, they were not believable, but and it didn't make sense. The dinosaurs.
Those creeped me out. The Slee Stacks.
The Slee Stacks, yeah.
Yeah, just the hissing.
Yeah.
And I remember that was freaky.
There's probably so much information in that show. If you went back and watched it. Oh, they were telling you about crystals.
Weren't the Slee Stacks trying to get crystals or protecting crystals or...
Yeah, it's probably like a documentary on our plane of existence's early birth or something.
You go back and watch it, and like the lizard Slee Stacks are named like Clinton and different.
Well, and I was talking to another buddy this last week, and I wonder why it is, with all the brain power and billions of people in the world, that they keep remaking movies. Over and over and over. Is there some sort of underlying story that they need us to know or need us to reference, and every generation must reference it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, really, 3 or 4 times to remake the same movie?
I think it's incompetence in just the way the movie industry works, where there's
too many
people. Yeah, but there's too many cooks in the kitchen, where the only thing they can agree on to make is something that they all can point to and say, oh yeah, we know that worked. So let's redo it.
Well, then you've got but then I think the contracts sometimes too. You see how I just saw a video this week of Frankie Valli still doing shows in
Frankie Valli
from
he was a singer, right?
Yeah, back I don't know. I want to say like the 40s or the 50s.
Wow.
Frankie
he's still
Valli in
alive?
the. Well, yeah, barely.
Yeah.
He's like literally 90 something up there and can't even lip sync.
Yeah.
Convincingly. Sort of looks like animatronic, but the contracts that the industry gets them into are just, complete usury where you'll never pay off your debt. So now you have Guns N' Roses out there doing what Axl does.
Notorious for that.
Right.
Of people.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder what the movie industry is. Oh, you signed into a 12 movie deal.
Yeah.
You've got to keep doing Fast and Furious. You have another 22 of them.
Which okay, I got to say, just side note, is it at Fast and Furious? Are there like 7 or 8 of those things?
I stopped counting after
I've never seen one. I've seen
You've
clips
never seen one
from the first one,
Oh,
but
the
I've
first
never
two were iconic.
Yeah, but I've never watched a full one, and then I just saw some ad something like Fast and Furious 11 is having drama.
Well, the car chases and the scenes just get more and more ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
if you're not
sure.
smashing through a helicopter to land on a cruise ship, to then cartwheel off onto an already running motorcycle and paraglide off the front of it, it's really kind of been done already. So,
well, maybe I need to watch the first couple.
Well, I'm going to give you one.
Don't ruin it for me,
I'm going to give
Freddie.
you one that they haven't done yet, which would be an awesome movie scene. Somebody has an aircraft carrier and then somebody else has a tank. And they have to stop the aircraft carrier from leaving the dock, and they full on run the tank off of the dock into the side of the aircraft carrier.
Wait, but what is the premise with them? I thought they were like car thieves. Did they
started
somehow?
out no, they're
they
a car
like
club.
a special forces group or something.
Paul Walker back then had to go undercover into a car club that would do illicit street racing.
Yeah.
And so he had to go undercover as a normal street racer kid to infiltrate from the inner.
And then they just figured out they were so cool and so good at driving cars that now the government.
And then they were a family.
Yeah. Okay.
And so now there's bonds, and then they go into hilarious situations now, and they get
so it's not like the
it.
government asking them to do stuff. Like somebody just gets into trouble, and then they end up having to drive a tank into an aircraft carrier.
Well, no, the scene of the tank driving into an aircraft carrier is my own that they have. I haven't seen anybody do it.
Yeah,
it would be an awesome scene.
Yeah,
like how heavy a tank is.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how you get from illicit car drivers to those bigger concepts.
Well, they've already done a tank in the Fast and Furious stuff.
So how did they get to that?
I don't know, because I skip around. I'll see some scenes here and there, and then when you're flying cars off of parking garages into other parking garages, and they manage to keep driving after that, it got too ridiculous for me to actually pay attention anymore.
Yeah, oh no, you're not selling me. I think I'm
not saying that they're
just wait for Tom Cruise to make Mission Impossible 13.
Yeah,
because
he's
those I get into.
He's I'm sure under contract to do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, maybe I'll check out Fast and Furious at some point.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Why? At this point, why would you need to?
Well, now to get to our last call, Freddie, we're going to shift gears to, and I'm sure you had a hunch this was coming, Gator attack.
No, didn't know that was
No,
coming.
that wasn't top of your mind?
No.
You didn't think here comes a Gator attack story?
But we live in Florida, so
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of Tuesday.
Yeah, well, this is, I think her name is either Mimi or Mindy. I couldn't really tell, but she's from Florida and has got a pretty kind of funny, entertaining Gator attack story.
Cool.
So, Mimi or Mindy, I apologize. Take it away.
My name's Nindy. I live in Okeechobee, Florida, but this story takes place about 16 years ago in Apopka at my first house after me and my husband got married. In this story, is about the time a 10-foot gator almost ate my whole family. I was out running errands one day, and I finished everything I needed to do, and I decided it was time to get back home to my boys, because my son, who was 6 months at the time, little Davies Jr., was taking a nap when I left, and my husband said he had some work to do in the yard, so I knew everything was cool for me to sneak away for an hour, maybe do some grocery shopping, maybe get a drink. So I do all my things, and I pull back up into the driveway, and I see it at my door. My front door is open, just a little bit, a crack. And this doesn't immediately trigger ring of warning bells because my husband's at home. He's coming in now. He's doing a lot of work in the yard. I don't see him out in the yard, so that's fine. Then he's inside. So I grab up all my bags and things. And I go inside. I open the front door. And there's the biggest goddamn gator I ever seen on my couch. And he's got my dog Scribble in his mouth, chopping on him like he was a whole chicken. Just going to town on him. Poor Scribble's dead. Thank goodness, because what that gator was doing to him, you wouldn't want to be alive for. And I let out some kind of scream. I scream at that gator to drop my dog. And the gator looks at me, but he keeps on chopping on poor Scribble. And so, right about then, it hits me. Oh shit, baby Davies is still in his crib. And I hope that gator hadn't been down the hallway yet. So I scream at the gator, but this time it ain't words. This time it's mama bear animal yell. So I dropped my McDonald's and I ran. And I leaped down that hallway, and that gator, fast as a lightning bolt, jumped off that couch and snapped at me. And I felt the wind of that snap behind my heels. He was chomping at me as I ran, but he didn't get me because I ran faster than he could chop. And so I kick in the door to Davies' room. It busts off on splinters. And he's there sleeping in his bed, thank God. And so I can't shut the door, and now I got me a problem, because I go back out into the hallway, and that gator's in the hallway. And he's filling up all of it, every single inch of the floor, from wall to wall. And he starts growling at me. He's staring at me, and he's still got a little bit of Scribble hanging out his mouth, a paw or a tail or something. And that made him even look worse, like some kind of demon. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I shouted at that gator. I wasn't going to move, because then he'd get past me into the hallway and get Davies Jr. And at that exact moment, my husband decides to come back inside from whatever the hell he was doing out there. And now, this is the thing. This is how the Lord works. I always made fun of my husband because anytime there was a littlest noise in the house, even if we was all home and all the doors are locked, even if there was a little noise, he grabbed his shotgun and take a look around and make sure everything was okay. No matter what happened, at the slightest noise, he'd jump up and check it up. So guess what? He came in that door after he heard me screaming with a shotgun in his hand. And a gator heard someone coming behind him, and he tried to turn around in the hallway, and that was a big old mess, because he can't fit when he turns sideways, so he had to back out really quick. My husband's yelling at the gator, and I'm yelling at the gator, and gator's chomping and growling, and as soon as that gator turned around, got out of the hallway, my husband shot him right in the back, and that fucking bullet bounced right off his back. I swear to God, it didn't even go in. No blood, no nothing, and that just made him more angry. And I guess my husband figured now I got his attention. He turned and bolted, and that gator ran right out after him. I slammed the door shut. And I was watching through the window. That gator chased my husband. I don't know if you know this, but gators can move like 120 miles an hour for about 5 seconds. I tell you what, I saw that gator out there chasing around my husband, and it woke something up in me. I got this defensive urge, like you don't fuck with my husband. So I went back. Guess what I did? I picked up those bags of McDonald's that I dropped earlier when I run down the hallway. I go out the front and I scream in that gator, "Hey, you leave him alone." Now gator turned and looked at me like it heard what I said. I swear to God. And I threw that bag of McDonald's back towards the lake near our house, and he went and he chased it like some kind of dog chasing a stick. And right when he turned to go get it, my husband shot him in the ass with that shotgun, shot him till he didn't move no more. About me ripped off his back half. And we had gator soup that night, I tell you what. And for about 6 months later, too. Even when we had company over, it lasted 6 months. And we had that fucker for soup. Moral in the story is don't leave your door open in gator country, because they come right in and eat your dog.
Poor Scribble. What a way to go.
That is
the imagery of whatever she said of a piece of Scribble hanging out of his mouth.
That's a sad ending for the dog. I don't know why she opened the door, kicked in the baby's door. I would have thought the baby would have been more safe with the door closed.
Yeah, who knows when you're all riled up with a gator in your house, what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the first. I mean, Florida, they'll just end up on your patio.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
10 foot's pretty big gator. Yeah.
Yeah, it's big.
It's not, yeah.
It's
What
not-
they can get up to like 15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a couple 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you get.
Oh, poor Scribble. Scribble went rough.
They were shooting it. You're supposed to shoot them right behind the eyes. That's where their tiny brain is.
Ah.
So.
Huh. I was thinking also, but then they did kill it with the shotgun. I was thinking that definitely with a shotgun, because that's why I think she said they had a shotgun. Depends on what kind of, what do you load in there?
Bird shot and stuff.
Buckshot. That can make a huge difference.
I've seen some Louisiana shows and stuff like that where they dispatch gators and they put it right up to the top of their head behind their eyes, and that's where their brain is.
What, like from behind?
No,
So
they're like
facing
in these insanely small boats.
Yeah.
Where they have gator traps, like in the water, and then one's on the line. And then they just bring it up next because they sell the pelts and the meat and all that sort of stuff. So now I'm an expert on gator wrangling because of those shows.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what firearm they use, but that's where they're shooting them.
Well, I think Mimi or Mindy, they did a good job. They did an excellent job
minus
in dealing
scribbles.
Yeah, scribbles. And I don't mean to. She sounds like a tough woman. She could probably, but they were probably eating scribble as well once they made the gator into soup.
It wouldn't have time. It wouldn't have time
maybe
to digest.
It wouldn't have. It'd still be in his stomach.
It'd still be in his stomach.
Yeah.
The neighbor's dog from a week or two ago.
Yeah.
That for sure.
Yeah.
Would be. But there's like stories in Florida of people that have dove in after, they're walking their dog alongside a lake, which you just don't do.
Yeah.
Or any open body of water in Florida. And then gator jumps out, grabs, puppy, and then they dive in after it and start fighting the gator and got the puppy out.
I think when I had my black lab, if a gator I would have not even... I would have dove in, beaten the crap out of that gator to save my dog without even thinking about it.
Yeah,
it's like
you're gonna be one of two.
Yeah,
you're either in or completely out.
Yep.
I would be in the in camp too.
Yeah.
They'd call me Nubby.
The thing is with gators though is they are you can see them. They're not it's not, if you live in Florida, it's not that scary to see. I mean, it'd be scary if you were kind of almost stepped on one or got that close, but you can see them occasionally on the banks of something or and it's not you don't feel like the gator's gonna turn around just attack you.
Well, no, but when you do see them on trails sometimes. If you go on bike trails and they'll be around, and when they growl at you or just they have a way of breathing heavy that lets you know that they know that you're there, and you're beginning to not anger them, but you're beginning to cause them angst. And they're sizable enough that you're like, all right, I get it.
Yep.
I'll move along.
Not as scary to me as we were talking about last week. Komodo dragons, I think, are way scarier than gators. I think Komodo dragons are more, they're looking at you more as food than a gator is. Gators would look at dogs as food, which probably Komodo, but Komodo dragons, I think, are more I can take that person down.
Yeah, one gator, that would suck, but it's when you get those times where, if you've ever looked at a lake or a body of water,
seen a bunch of eyeballs coming up, and
it's just like a river at night, and you take a flashlight and pan it across it, and it's just eyeball.
Yeah, that would be freaky.
Eyeball.
Yeah.
Like that. Take your paddleboard out there.
Yeah, that would be freaky. That's a lot of people don't realize one of the deadliest animals on Earth is hippos. Yeah, which that is kind of the same thing. And I guess in Africa, it's just hippos are extremely or more dangerous than crocodiles. They think.
I know they manhandle crocodiles apparently.
Yeah. Well, that hippo they're a freaky looking.
They're
jaws
insanely
are so big,
fast that you wouldn't even understand. They sort of like gallop they run along the bottom, but then they also leap and like I've seen videos of them keeping up with boats. They're just bobbing down and then they pop back up.
Well, and they'll turn over canoes, I think, on purpose to eat the people inside. Or at least like
how do you they only have these. I mean, I see their teeth. They've got these giant tusks, and then they've got the molars that they can crunch on you with.
Yeah,
but they're not really a carnivorous looking.
No, because they're like giant
those tusks
pigs.
Are really just sort of weird to me. Like, what do you even do with those things?
Yeah, they don't look like predator. Like, it's weird because they look like just like giant pigs.
Yeah,
sort of water pigs.
And then the hogs, they jab you with an upward thrust of their skull to like rip open your leg or something, you know, but I mean, I can see how powerful a hippo is. I can't imagine. I guess I have to look for some videos of hippo attack.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember, I think I heard, so they will attack humans, but it's not to eat you. It's territorial.
Yeah.
They're super So that's why they'll knock over canoes and stuff, is if you go into their territory, I guess like a bull.
Yeah. They're just pissed
hippo.
off.
Yeah. Will just try to kill you for coming in its territory.
Right.
So.
And I just don't. The ergonomics or the logistics of how they do things. You know, I saw a fight between a rhino and an elephant, you know, and I could see how the weapons are used for both of those animals and stuff. And that was kind of crazy because, you know, rhino is not a small animal.
Oh, yeah.
But compared to an elephant, it was just over. Like, literally, it just got him, kneeled on him, and then just drove a tusk right into him.
Elephants are so much freaking bigger than everything. Yeah. Like, it's just ridiculous. They can just step on shit, and
Yeah, but hippos still, I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research and find out how they get you. Do they drown you?
Yeah.
Like a crocodile?
All right, well, we're almost to the end of the show, Freddie, so maybe if you don't mind a homework assignment.
I'll
the
find
next
out
episode, find out for us exactly what's going on with hippos.
Right.
And how many people they kill, why, how they do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then no problem.
And if you have got a story that involves anything, whether it's hippos or gators or black-eyed kids or actually having a threesome, then call it in. We'll play it on the air and maybe make it into a video on the YouTube page. I'm excited about the YouTube page, Freddie. It should be a good addition and kind of add some new listeners and also a new aspect to the show.
No, it's going to definitely add another layer to these stories.
Yeah, you've seen because you've seen a couple of them that have been made.
I told you, it was like hearing the story again for the first time.
Yeah,
and it was awesome. It was so much more graphic in your mind with all the illustrations and the.
And I will ask people to be understanding in the development of where AI. You do get some consistency issues throughout the video. Like the longer it gets, the more kind of inconsistent the characters look at times, and you get some wild, like especially when it's animating motion, you can get some wacky stuff.
Yeah,
but
I like the randomness.
Yeah, that kind of adds to the humor of it.
Yeah.
And
some of the choices are funny to me.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, I made a music video of the theme song to the show, which I'm probably going to post, but just to warn people, it sort of has a bad acid trip feel to it.
Cool.
So I might try to refine that at some point in the future. But if you get a chance, please, it'd really help the show out. Go in the show notes, go to the YouTube page, subscribe to that. And so that'll help to boost the exposure of the show and make sure then you see every story that we turn into a video. You can watch that as well. And anything you can do to share the audio show or the YouTube page is very much appreciated. Anything you'd like to add before we end, Freddie?
No, just bring your stories. You guys have stuff happening out there. I'm sure of it.
Yep, more stories. That's in the link to that is in the show notes as well. Thank you very much for listening. If you get a chance, please leave a 5-star ranking, and we will see you next time.
Please be aware that Your Best True Story podcast cannot attest to the validity of any story contained within. Additionally, all podcast hosts have failed numerous IQ tests and been legally deemed idiots by the judicial branch of the state of Florida. Therefore, please seek second opinions from licensed attorneys, doctors, CPAs, and/or ventriloquists prior to leaving your job to hunt Bigfoot, dragging a stake through your sleeping spouse's heart due to vampiric suspicion, snipping, slicing, dicing, or gargling any substance, attempting to drive your automobile off of the flat earth, or attempting to overthrow any government over suspicion that they are lizard aliens. The Your Best True Story podcast does not purport to offer legal, financial, or gynecological advice. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Please wear your seatbelt at all times and keep your hands inside your own compartment. If there is a sudden loss of pressure, you do have our permission to scream. The Your Best True Story podcast takes no responsibility for divorce, bankruptcy, possession by an ancient demonic entity, or brain herpes. For everything else, we still take no responsibility, but we do feel very bad
You
about
got
it.
a crazy-ass true story to tell. It could be funny, or thrilling, or creepy, as hell. And when you speak, surely none will make a sound. And the world's going breathless when your true story comes around. Oh, hear the crazy bullshit flying. Just one more maybe true story before we're dying. Yet be warned, surely not all stories will be treated the same. So don't blame us if your tale about grandma's cookies is lame. The only way to ensure you could possibly win a buck is to make sure that story of yours don't suck. So instead of yawns, go ahead and tell us how that Bigfoot or werewolf drowned, and then hear the world go breathless when your true story comes around. You'll hear the crazy bullshit flying. Just one more maybe true story before we're dying.